Education systems are often evaluated through numbers, test scores, graduation rates, employment statistics. These metrics offer useful insights into how institutions perform. But beneath these measurements lies a deeper question. Why do education systems exist in the first place? What are they actually meant to accomplish? Should education primarily prepare people for careers? Should it cultivate informed citizens? Should it expand human understanding? Different societies answer these questions in different ways, and those answers shape the structure of their education systems. Which raises one final curiosity for the season. What are education systems really for? Welcome back to the Tech Curio Cabinet. Hello again, I'm Christina, the Curio Steward. Over the course of the season, we've explored how different societies design their education systems. We looked at global mathematics performance and the cultural expectations that shape learning. We examined examination systems and their role in allocating opportunity. We explored Nordic models of trust-based education and the evolving design of engineering pipelines. We considered the role of liberal education in a technological world and the importance of universities within innovation ecosystems. And in our last episode, we explored how digital technologies are expanding the classroom beyond national boundaries. Each of these curios revealed something about how societies organize knowledge. But today's curiosity asks a more fundamental question. What is the ultimate purpose of education itself? Education systems perform multiple functions simultaneously. They transmit knowledge accumulated through generations. They prepare students for participation in professional and economic life. They cultivate civic understanding and social responsibility, and they support the intellectual and personal development of individuals. These roles are not new. They have evolved over centuries, shaped by cultural, economic, and political contexts. But the core mission remains remarkably consistent. Education philosopher John Dewey argued that education should do more than deliver content. It should help individuals learn how to think critically about their experiences and engage meaningfully with the world around them. It should function as miniature communities fostering critical thinking, collaboration, and active civic engagement. For Dewey, education was not just a pathway to employment. It was foundational to democracy itself, a way of preparing individuals to participate thoughtfully in society, to question, to reflect, and to contribute. Modern education systems still carry this legacy. They are expected to develop knowledge, skills, and civic awareness all at once. And as we've seen throughout the season, they do so within structures that vary widely across regions, cultures, and disciplines. One of the most striking patterns across everything we've explored this season is this. Despite dramatic technological change, the core purposes of education have remained remarkably stable. Students still study mathematics and science, literature and history, and systems of thought that have been built over generations. Universities still combine teaching with research. Schools still act as institutions through which societies transmit knowledge and cultural values. Even the technological transformations we explored in Season 2, from AI-assisted learning to adaptive systems, do not fundamentally alter why education exists. They change how it operates. But the underlying goals remain resilient. And if we reflect across this season, we saw how different cultures approach mastery and effort in global mathematics systems. In examination systems, we saw how societies define fairness and opportunity. In Nordic models, we explored trust and professional judgment. We examined the balance between depth and application in engineering education. And in liberal education, we considered adaptability and intellectual breadth. In universities and innovation ecosystems, we saw how knowledge becomes an economic force. And in global classrooms, we explored how learning expands across borders. Each of these curios revealed variation in structure. But beneath them, the purpose of education remains strikingly consistent. Advances in education technology often promise greater efficiency. Information can be delivered instantly. Feedback can be automated. Learning pathways can be personalized at scale. And these capabilities are powerful. But education is not simply about transferring information. Learning also involves mentorship, intellectual challenge, dialogue and disagreement, and the gradual development of judgment. These are deeply human processes, which leads to a central paradox. The more efficient technology becomes at delivering information, the more visible and more essential the human elements of learning become. Technology can accelerate access, it can enhance feedback, and it can support scale. But it cannot fully replace the experience of grappling with an idea, or the influence of a thoughtful teacher, or the social context in which learning takes place. So education systems must continually balance these forces, not choosing between technology and human interaction, but integrating them in ways that preserve what matters most. If there's one clear signal emerging across education systems worldwide, it is this: a growing emphasis on adaptability. Students are increasingly encouraged to develop capabilities such as critical thinking, collaboration, and lifelong learning. These are not new ideas, but they are taking on renewed importance in a world where knowledge evolves rapidly, technologies reshape industries, and career paths are far less predictable than they once were. Education is shifting, subtly, but meaningfully, from focusing primarily on what students know to placing greater emphasis on how they learn, and perhaps even more importantly, how they continue learning over time. In this sense, education is not just about preparation, it's about resilience, the ability to adapt, to relearn, and to navigate complexity. Education systems sit at the intersection of tradition and transformation. They preserve knowledge accumulated over centuries, and at the same time, they prepare new generations to confront challenges that may not yet exist. This dual role is what makes education both stable and dynamic. It changes slowly because it carries the weight of history. And yet, it must continually evolve because the world it serves does not stand still. Understanding how these systems evolve helps us see something essential. Education is not simply about transmitting information. It is about cultivating the intellectual capacities that allow individuals and societies to adapt, to question, and to thrive. And perhaps that is the thought line of everything we've explored this season. Different systems, different structures, different philosophies, but a shared goal to help people learn how to think, how to learn, and how to navigate a world that is always changing. Before we close the cabinet on season 3, it's worth stepping back for a moment and reflecting on the curiosities we've explored together. This season, we shifted our perspective outward. In the first 2 seasons of the EdTech Curio cabinet, we focused primarily on teaching practices and emerging technologies. The lecture that refuses to disappear, the persistence of traditional assessments, the rise of artificial intelligence in education, and the evolving role of instructors in increasingly digital learning environments. But in season 3, we zoomed out to look at something larger: the systems that shape education itself. We explored why some countries consistently excel at mathematics and what cultural expectations around effort and mastery might reveal about how students learn. We examined the powerful role of examination systems, institutions that promise fairness while sometimes narrowing the scope of learning. We looked at Nordic models of education built on trust in teachers and professional autonomy. We explored how engineering pipelines are designed differently around the world and how societies balance technical depth with intellectual breadth. We also considered the continuing debate around liberal education and why thinkers like Fareed Zakaria argue that intellectual curiosity may be one of the most valuable capacities students can develop. We examined how research universities anchor innovation ecosystems, connecting knowledge creation with economic development. And finally, we explored how digital technologies are expanding the classrooms beyond national borders, creating what might be beginnings of a truly global learning network. On the surface, these curiosities might appear quite different from one another, but taken together, they reveal a powerful pattern. Education systems are not simply collections of policies or institutions. They are reflections of deeper assumptions about knowledge, learning, and human potential. Some systems emphasize rigor and discipline. Others emphasize exploration and autonomy. Some prioritize socialization. Others value broad intellectual development. And increasingly, all of them must grapple with the same question: how should education evolve in a world where knowledge itself is changing faster than ever before? Which brings us to the next set of curios in the cabinet. Because in our next season, We'll return to the intersection of learning and technology, but with a deeper understanding of the systems that shape them. Season 4 will explore the evolving relationship between human cognition and intelligent machines, how artificial intelligence may reshape assessment, feedback, and learning environments, how educational systems may adapt as machines become increasingly capable of generating knowledge, and perhaps more importantly, what aspects of learning may remain uniquely human no matter how sophisticated our technologies become. Because if the curiosities of the past 3 seasons have taught us anything, it's this: technology may change the tools we use to learn, but the deeper questions of education remain remarkably persistent. How do people develop understanding? How do societies cultivate knowledge? And how do we prepare future generations for a world we cannot fully predict? Those are questions worth exploring. But for now, we'll close the cabinet on Season 3. Thank you for joining me in examining these artifacts, patterns, paradoxes, and signals from the evolving world of education. Until next season, keep asking curious questions.